Hey guys, how's everyone doing? I'm out in the truck. I just recorded a video that's uploading now where I go over the load boards and just kind of discuss that. I reply to some comments. And so that's uploading as we speak. I wanted to touch on a couple other topics that they're kind of interest. I'm not sure how you guys will interpret it or what your guys' thoughts are. I try to not bring politics into my channel, but politics are coming into trucking. They've always been in trucking, right? And so I want to discuss a couple things. First, while I'm on video, just some blanket comments. People have asked me, how did you end up where you're at relative to where you started in trucking? I started in the equipment rental business, and I kind of climbed the ladder at a smaller company, and then I went from being a driver, I moved into operations, then sales, and then I kind of peaked out at a smaller company. Great place to work, learned a lot. Smaller companies have shorter ladders to climb, if you will. Then I went to work for a large independently owned equipment rental company. In fact, they're the largest independently owned rental company in North America. And by independently owned, I mean they're not publicly traded. One man and a couple family members own the whole thing, and they're pretty large. I learned a lot there, and I went into my own equipment rental business. Started it up with a business partner who is to this day still a great friend, awesome guy. Sometimes I kind of wish we were still doing stuff together because he's just unique in the way he does things. Anyway, and so, that business deal kind of ended because the economy tanked, frankly. The great housing crash affected construction of all types, and we primarily rented to construction companies. And so from there, I started the trucking business. Back in like 2012, we incorporated. We pursued the oil field industry, and that grew. At one point, we were well over 40 trucks running. Some were owner-operators. Some were, the majority were ours. But we bought all the trucks cash. Didn't go out and I learned from the equipment rental business, times get really, really sad and hard when business drops and you've got, 30, 40, 50 grand a month to come up with in payments. It's very difficult to do when no revenue's coming in. No matter how much money you personally try to sock away, you don't have enough to cover that out of pocket. Anyway, and so with the pandemic and the drop in oil, I moved some of my trucks over the road. Quite a few of them are still parked at the yard, just because oil field beats them up where they can't really run over the road without dumping some money into them. And so I'm hoping to get a few more on the road here over the next couple months. But I've been asked by some. I'm also a member in some of the hotshot groups. I have a couple hotshot pickup trucks that we were using in the oil field. And I often get asked, why don't you put them to work? Pickup trucks are not built for longevity over the road, okay? And a lot of hotshot guys will argue that till they're blue in the face. It boils down to what's called a balance sheet, okay? You buy a $60,000 pickup truck, and 5 years later, that truck is worth nothing. It has 500,000 miles on it. It barely runs. If you guys follow hotshotting at all, check out Toe Piglet. He's got a pickup truck that had 500,000 miles on it. It was the truck he started with. And you'll see there's a couple videos where he kind of went through it, tried to clean it back up, and it was still just unreliable. It was not a good truck 5 years later. And that's just the nature of it. So if I'm going to invest money, especially if I'm going to get in debt, it's not going to be for a disposable product that's worthless in a couple years. Basically, you never get on top of that depreciation curve. So it's called a balance sheet, guys. When you get to a point where you think you've grown and you're generating revenue and you're doing, over $1 million a year, and you think, hey, I'm going to go to the bank and borrow some money so I can expand. Banks will ask you for a few things. They're going to ask you for your tax returns. Your tax returns are going to say what your balance sheet looks like. Your tax returns are going to say if you made money or not. They'll ask you for typically 3 years back tax returns. And so basically means you have to be in business 4 years. They'll ask you for current financials, your last quarterly. They may ask you to take it to your CPA for your CPA to certify them. Along with that is going to come your balance sheet. When you have a pickup truck that you paid $60,000 for and you've put 500,000 miles on it, its market value is zero. There's nothing there. It's worthless. And so you're investing money. Yes, you get a tax write-off for it, but you're investing money, but you have no balance sheet. Your company has no worth. If you've ever done like Quicken software to manage your finance, and over to the right, there's this column called net worth. They look at what your assets are worth and how much money you owe. And your net worth is negative, right? You owe a lot of money on your house, yada, yada, yada. Well, likewise, your business. Your business will never have net worth if you're buying a pickup truck that you're doing 100,000 miles a year in. You're never going to have net worth. Semi-trucks, on the other hand, have the ability to have a net worth. In my case, the trucks that I'm running over the highway right now, I bought for like 20 grand. And I sold a couple of them because things slowed down. And like I said before, no debt. I buy these things cash. And so right now I still have quite a few power units sitting at the yard. And I've got like 20 tanks, trailers, the big vacuum tankers that we use to haul fluids in the oil field with. I've got like 20 of them sitting. In today's market, because oil field is down, they might be worth 10 grand. But when oil field comes back, they're worth 20, and I have 20 of them. So if I can hang on to them and sell them when things are better, that's my balance sheet. That's my net worth for the company. The power units and the trailers sitting there. And so my pickup trucks that I run local hot shots with, they're not like some of these guys have 300,000 miles on them and they're 2 or 3 years into it. I've got a 2004 Dodge Ram that has under 300,000 miles on it. I've got a 2012 that I just sold, in fact. It's got 260,000 miles on it. It's a 2012. It doesn't have 600,000 miles like if I was running it over the road. And so those are things you need to consider. You see people putting out videos talking about, oh, well, I do hot shots instead of semis because semi trucks I can't make money with. Then you didn't know the semi truck business. That's the problem. It's not that there's anything wrong with semi trucks. You just didn't know what you were getting yourself into. You didn't know how to fix them. You didn't know how to maintain them. You jumped into something you didn't understand. And so now you compare that to what a lot of guys are doing these days, your box truck guys and your hot shot guys and some of your semi truck guys doing power only stuff with Amazon. You guys are wanting to rent trucks. That could be an okay starting point. You don't want to go out and purchase a new semi, but you can go to one of these companies that'll rent you one for a handful of months, and your payment's like twice what it would be if you went out and just bought a truck. But you figure if it's not going to work, if you can't make it work, if you can't make the ends meet, like they say, you return the truck and you're not in debt. I get that. But long term, you don't want to stay with rentals, whether it's a hot shotter doing an enterprise rental, lease, whatever they call it, or whether it's a box truck you're getting from Penske or Ryder or whoever to do Amazon loads, or if you're renting from, Donahue, one of these pro stars, and you're trying to run power only, refer back to my first statement about your balance sheet. Yes, you get a tax write-off. Yes, at the end of the day, if you made 100,000 profit last year, that's great. You made 100,000 in profit. But the minute your work stops, everything dies. You have nothing. I've got assets. I've got trucks sitting in the yard that I can sell today, or I can put them back to work in the oil field if the price was right. Oil field is getting busy again, but I don't think the price is right. So I'm not going to go bend myself over backwards to go work for $60 an hour, $70 an hour. If it came back up to 80, 90, I'd be looking at it. But the upside is I've got assets sitting at the yard that I can sell and get revenue out of, or I can, like I'm planning on doing now, fix some of them up, put them over the road, and let them generate revenue over the road. When you do the whole enterprise or Pinsky thing, your rental ends and you have nothing. And banks see this. So if you feel like you're growing a business and you're going to, whatever, 3, 4, 5 years later, you think you can go to the bank and you're going to borrow $500,000 so you can, double the size of your fleet because you can show the bank you can make money. They're going to look at the fact that you have no assets. Nothing. You don't even own a truck. You don't even own a truck, and you're a trucking business. Think about that for a minute. So, I'm not saying don't do it, don't get one, don't consider one. You can do the rental thing to start, a handful of months, but you need to start working on building assets for your business. A computer and a desk isn't an asset. I mean, it is. It's a durable good, and you can depreciate it. But, when you go to the bank and say, I want to expand my business, I think I have a good marketing plan. I think I have, I built a machine that makes money. Fund me. They're going to want to know what you got to show for it. And what are you going to show for it? That you've been paying, $2,000 a month to rent a tractor, or, $1,200 a month to rent a pickup truck. There's nothing there. That's how they're going to look at it. There's nothing there. What can we come after if you can't make your payments? You got nothing. And so if you can't figure out how to purchase your equipment and make money with it, you're in the wrong business. You're living paycheck to paycheck. You are better off shutting it down and go get a job, or at least your paycheck comes regularly. I know it sounds harsh, but you keep seeing and hearing these videos where everyone's jumping into, box trucks with a Penske rental. To start it, okay, but beyond that, you need to buy your own. I purchased my trucks cash. If I can't purchase them cash, I can't afford them. It's that simple. Yes, I did start with 2 trucks that my other business already owned, and my trucking business paid the equipment rental business for those trucks. Yes, they did make payments. It wasn't, I didn't have pockets full of cash, so I started the business and it made monthly payments until it paid them off. But then immediately after that, my trucking business started buying trucks cash. Yes, oil field generates a lot of revenue, and that did make it somewhat easier. But if you're not taking loads that are making you the kind of money where you can put aside money to buy, a $25,000 or a $30,000 power unit or a $12,000 box truck, you're in the wrong business, or you're not doing it right, or you're taking the wrong loads. I show you guys on the load boards how crappy those loads are. If you're taking those, it's why you can't afford it. The other thing I wanted to talk about is they recently passed the PRO Act. I hate talking about politics, but this is going to have an effect on us. In the next clip, I'm going to kind of open up an article and show you guys what I mean. California did a similar thing called the AB5, and it has squashed the owner-operators that lease on to other companies, because other companies can't take the risk or don't want to take the risk of being sued either by owner-operators or the state coming after them. And I'll get into that in a minute. Anyways, if you guys stick with the next clip, I'll kind of talk about what the new PRO Act is going to effectively do to the trucking industry. And you know, you want to be cognizant of that problem if you're about to jump in and make an investment, because you're going to have to be prepared for a little different a game developing really soon. Anyways, check it out. All right, guys. So the PRO Act was kind of promoted and sold to the American people as a right to unionize. They kind of presented it like, we're going to make it easier for you to unionize, and we're protecting you, the little guy. The thing you have to remember is anytime someone says they're protecting the little guy, or the middle class, what they're really doing is squashing the middle class. Okay? And I'm not trying to take sides, left, right, or indifferent, Republican, Democratic. I'm not trying to make this a political debate, but this is a discussion that affects business. So California passed something called the AB5, and it's very similar to this. And basically what ended up happening is a whole bunch of owner-operators that ran leased on to companies that were hauling loads out of the ports, both Los Angeles and Long Beach. They gathered themselves together and created a class action lawsuit against one of the biggest carriers that was hauling containers out of there. And in the lawsuit, they contended that they were not independent contractors, that they were employees, and as employees, they should have received unemployment benefits, and they should not have been made responsible for insurance payments, tires, and fuel. So the way this company worked was, you would come lease on, you would get paid, however they structured the load. If you got paid like a flat rate to haul a container from the port to a given yard, or if you were hauling it, to an end user and you were paid by the mile, this company had, fuel cards, and they put you on their insurance and then, deducted it from your settlements. And so they sued for all of that money back. That company ended up going bankrupt because, of course, that's not money that they can cover twice. What basically happened is this company had to pay for their fuel twice. They paid the fuel to the fuel card company, and then they had to reimburse it to the so-called employee according to the state. And so California had a four-point checklist to see or to qualify if you were a employee or a contractor. And so this article kind of touches on, it was passed and, what it entails. Here it says, the OOIDA opposes it, and definitely they have to. So here's the ABC test that I referred to, and it I'm not going to try and read the whole article, but here's kind of the point. So the worker is free from the control and direction of the hirer in connection with the performance of the work, both under contract for the performance of the work and in fact. Kind of a long way to put it, but so let's just say I am a carrier and I have a dedicated route with Amazon. We'll use Amazon because everybody seems to have an interest in them. So I have a dedicated route and it's a power only load that goes from California to Phoenix. And then, you drop, you hook another one, you take that one from Phoenix to Tucson, you drop, and then you do your 10-hour break, and then you grab another one, and you come back to, let's say, Ontario, Los Angeles area. Well, if I contract you and you have your own truck, then you're an owner-operator. I pay you without taxes. And if you are putting your own driver in there, you pay your driver and you take care of the tax issue for that driver. You pay for that driver's workman's comp, and all those liabilities fall on you. So now, the scenario here is, it says they are to be free from the control. So if I have this contract and I assign this job to you, where the Amazon application tells you you must be here at 10 a.m. to grab this trailer, and the trailer must be in, Phoenix, Arizona at 4:30 p.m., that is not free from control. That is under direct control from the contract that I have. And so you are no longer an independent contractor, according to them. You are now an employee. Okay, so you have to clear all three of these. Okay, so the second one, the worker that performs the work is outside the usual course of hiring entity's business. Okay, so I'm in the trucking business. That means if I hire you to do trucking, you're not outside of my usual course of business. You're within my course of business. If I hire you to come wash my truck, that's a necessity my business has, but it's not my course of business. I don't wash trucks and charge other people. If I hire you to come and fix a flat, even though I may fix flats as a course of my business, it's not what I engage business with other people. So if I hire you to drive a truck, but I drive a truck and this is what I charge for, then you are my employee, not a contractor. You have to be outside of my regular course of business. The worker that is customarily engaged independently established trade, occupation, or business of the same nature that is involved in the work performed. So, this is kind of where you can hire someone else, but the way this is worded, it kind of means, like if I was a contractor, let's just say I build homes and I hire a drywall contractor, that drywaller has to have independently engaged. In other words, that contractor has to have his own contractor's license and work for other people other than me. Now, that works in the construction industry. If I hire a roofer to do 5 homes and that roofer is working for 5 or 6 other contractors other than me, then that is a worker that is customarily engaged independently. Okay? That's kind of where they get that from. And so if I hire an owner-operator and that owner-operator does not have his own authority, they don't operate independently of me in the same trade. They operate through me. Thus, according to this, I become their employer. Now, how does that impact us? What does that mean? Well, what it means is, instead of paying a driver, for example, $20 an hour, and we're responsible for unemployment benefits and payroll deductions, Social Security benefits, and things like that, based on $20 an hour, if I hire an independent owner-operator to do a load and I'm going to pay him $80 an hour, I am now responsible for those same benefits based on 80 an hour. And it doesn't come out of the owner operator's pay. I mean, deductions would, but those deductions where, you match the payroll tax to the feds, unemployment benefits, workman's comp benefits, or insurance, that all now has to come out of my pocket. And if I don't take it out and the state or the feds audit me, I can owe all that money back without the independent owner operator, without having a recourse against them. And so this now creates a scenario where I'm not going to want to hire, owner operator. In California, it's now become very difficult to get leased on with someone because of this. And so why do I say, they put small businesses out of work when they say they're trying to protect the middle class? Well, because I have a friend who owned 5 trucks that were leased on to a company that was hauling containers out of Long Beach. And the guy was doing very well, had a nice big home out in the Inland Empire, close to where the yard was. By big home, he had a big property, 5-bedroom house. It was like 2,600 square foot with a pool. He owned 5 trucks. He was doing very well for himself. When that all went away, he was no longer able to work for that company because they shut their doors. And instead, that company formed a new company, and they offered him a job where he'd have to pay union dues, of course, because it became a union job. So he had to pay union dues, and it was going to pay him take home about $850 a week. Whereas before, he was profiting between all of his trucks like $4,700 a week. See the difference? So that system took him out of the middle class and made him an employee making crap for wages. Luckily this guy had his wits about him, and as this was developing, he went out and got his own authority, insured himself, and now he's running trucks off of load boards independently. But those of you guys that are thinking, I'm going to jump into this, be aware that across the country, the industry may be in for a big swing. This is going to create a market where companies may not want to lease you on anymore. I mean, California did it, and a lot of bigger companies moved all their terminals out of California for the same reason. In the short term, for companies like me, it was kind of a boost because rates leaving California went up substantially. A lot of companies don't want to come here, period. But now if this is enforced on a national level, if they don't amend this just for trucking, be aware. It may be a huge impact on independent owner operators. Let me rephrase that. Owner operators that are leased on. An independent would have his own authority, right? Anyways, I wanted to share this with you guys because it is going to impact our industry. Do a little research. If you're getting ready to jump in, buy your own truck, look at this. Research what it's done to the market in California. Do your own. Don't just take my opinion on it. It's just my, 2 cents I'm rubbing together on some old stale looking pennies. But it's something that you should definitely consider before, investing in that truck or, jumping into a long-term lease with a truck or shelling out all the money to get your authority active. You guys should look at this and be aware of it. Anyways, as always, thanks for watching. Like I said, I don't like making things political. I try to stay politically neutral, but this is something that's going to affect our industry, and we should definitely be aware of it and plan for it. As always, thanks for watching.